Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Jonathan Lipp. I am the director of the Big Apple Film Festival. We're looking forward to our Spring 2025 festival coming up May 12th to the 15th, taking place at Look Dine-In Cinemas right here in New York City. I have with me our guest today, filmmaker Cinqué Lee. Cinqué, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, Jonathan. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Thank you for having me here in the podcast and your festival.
Of course. Festival. Thank you for being here. Cinqué's film, A Rare Grand Alignment, is going to be screening at the festival. And just to give you an overview, the logline of this film, 3 American boys are trapped in a cable car in Norway with a dead body. So I'll just leave it at that. And I will ask Cinqué if you want to elaborate now and tell us more about the film.
Sure. I don't usually say the dead body because it's sort of given away.
Oh,
but
all right,
that's okay. That's just me. I mean, I know I don't watch trailers because it just gives so much away sometimes, you know.
Right.
But we had to make a trailer for our buyers because we're trying to sell a film now like that, and I'm just like, why are you showing everything? They're like, it's okay. It's not going to be for the public. This is just, to let our buyers, our sales agents, is selling the film now. I would say it's a coming of age. Well, that's not what it's about. Yeah, three boys, three boys. You have that right. Trapped in a cable car in the dead of winter.
Right.
Yeah.
So first, let me ask you about the origin of this particular story,
sure.
because it's such an interesting concept, and I think it's. Just to me, the log line alone is like just I think really is engaging. How did you come up with this concept?
Well, I originally wanted to write something that took place in one location. I thought could be filmed cheap. I thought, cable car, not a lifeboat, cable car, hanging, stuck in the air. But before that, I wanted to write a story about these friends of mine that I had lost contact with when I was 12. And I was kind of missing them and another friend of mine who I'd known him since first grade, another friend of mine, we were like, we're looking for this 2 people. One of them, we actually knew who he was. He was, still is in what's the right word to say, mental institution, The other one just fell off the face of the earth. So it was, going back to remembering the relationships I had. Because a lot of my friends I've known since first grade. And there's a couple of us who just disappeared. So it was sort of nostalgic. I'm a big nostalgia guy. I got nothing but nostalgia in me.
I'm the same way. I totally understand that. I get it. You think back to those days and wonderful memories.
I live in 1982, basically. That's why this film takes place in 1982.
Right. It's a period piece, 1982.
Yeah,
yes.
Best year ever for me. Because I was 14 going on 15. And that was just everything. It was E.T., it was Blade Runner, it was Wrath of Khan. It reminded me to go down my huge list. I mean, it's just The Thing, my favorite film. So that was the origin of the story. That's how I came up with it, and I was like, okay, I got to write this down. So my friend's parents had a loft on Great Jones. One of those giant, 20-foot tall ceilings, just the whole floor, just like almost a quarter of a block. And they just moved out, and I was like, "Hey, can I stay in your place?" They're like, the heat's gone. There's no hot water, but we got electricity. I was like, yes. And so I went there on a Friday night, and by Sunday, I had 55 pages. It was just all came out, and I was like, "What? What just happened?" But it was cool. I just had to go downstairs and get some coffee. So that's how I got that. And there's memories I have of us, with my friends where we there's like peer pressure going on. Do this, do that. You know, why aren't you doing this? You're not one of us, and blah blah blah. And I wanted to capture that type of thing growing up. When you're that age, you know, you think of stuff that your friend said, but you know, but when you really think about it, you're all talking over each other at the same time. So I tried to capture that in the film, how
Right.
people say things, the kids at least, when there aren't parents around, how kids freaking curse their heads off.
Oh yeah.
When there's no adults around, they talk with each other. And they peer pressure each other too. They bully each other. And they repeat themselves a lot too.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, so you're a horror buff. Clearly, The Thing is one of your favorite films you mentioned.
Yeah, I'm a practical effects horror buff. Yeah, I mean, since like 1979, there's this magazine that used to be around called Cinefex. It was the Bible quarterly, 4 times a year it would come out. This thick book, you know, this wide book, and they would just detail. So all this time I've been like, yeah, I'm not so hooked up into the digital stuff going on. It was always like the practical stuff I thought was interesting. And then when we started shooting this film in Finland, and you know, right on the tail end of COVID, in America at least, that wiped that magazine out because there was no films going on. Sets they can visit to do that. So I took them out. So I was like, damn, right when I got to do my hands-on series digital effect movie with the LED volume, that's when was the closing of that magazine, and when I started doing that. But yeah, I can answer some other questions. But yeah.
Yeah. So I know the film is supposed to take place in Norway. It was shot in Finland.
Yeah.
Was there a particular reason why you chose to shoot in Finland, or why you even wanted it to take place overseas? Is there a specific reason why you chose that?
Oh, absolutely. I had planned to shoot it in Los Angeles, in front of a rear projection. So there's this really cool visual effects movie called Oblivion with Tom Cruise. And in the film, he lives in the sky cabin city, and it's all made out of chrome. And they're like, I learned this from that magazine, Tune Effects, and behind the scenes stuff. And they're like, there's no way we can shoot this in front of a green screen because all that green is going to bounce off of all the chrome apartment he has in the city. So the only way to do that was to have the screen, like basically a rear screen projection behind this thing, this platform where he lives in the sky. So all the sun reflection and the clouds and all that stuff is going to bounce off the chrome because if you have green on the chrome of this guy's thing, it's going to be impossible to get that off of there. So they were like, let's do it this way. So that was my plan. My plan was to shoot my backgrounds in the mountains of Norway and then get the plates and then project it with the cable car in front of the screen, just capture it all in camera. That was my plan. So I went around with my partner and colleague. We went around to Los Angeles and we were looking at some places. And then all of a sudden, you know, The Mandalorian dropped. And in the volume, which is basically same thing as having a rear screen projection because you catch it all in camera at the same time, but you're basically shooting in front of a high-def television. But you do have to, instead of doing effects after you shoot something with a green screen, you got to do it before you shoot. You got to get all that stuff you're going to have on the screen because it's all being captured in the screen. The stuff that's going to be on your LED volume screen behind you or something projected behind you.
Is this the first time you've ever shot a film like that? Have you done this before?
Oh, hell no.
Oh, this is your first time?
Oh, God, yeah. I had to hit the ground running, but I knew about special effects, and I knew that I wanted to shoot with my cable car hanging from the ceiling in a studio with background footage of real mountains. And so... So this is 2017 when when I wrote the film. So I was working on The Five Bloods, and Spike has an actor he's worked with called Jasper, and I can't remember his last name. Hi, Jasper. He's Finnish. Last day of his shooting, I was like, Jasper, do you guys have mountains in Finland? Because I'm like, I wrote a part for him, and he's like, no, they're flat as a pancake. As he got into his car, and that was his last day, and I was like, oh crap. And so, a year later or two, Jasper gets in touch with. I think I showed Jasper the script, and Jasper got in touch with Mikko, the producer of the film, who's a Finnish. Well, he was a Finnish phone gaming guy. He invented the game Clash of Clans.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
And then he sold it, I think, to Tencent, a Chinese company. And then he's like, I want to make films. That's my passion. So our film was the first film that came into his thing. He built a LED volume stage in Finland, in Helsinki. And I knew Jasper, and Spike knew Jasper. And Spike was like, hey, Jasper knows a guy who has an LED screen in Finland. We were like, well, let's go.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible that you're, this is your first time, using that type of technology. I mean, you pulled it off great. I mean,
yeah.
Clearly.
I mean, it's not for everybody. You just can't do it. I've seen some stuff that I'm just like, I wouldn't have done that. You really, really have to know what Tom Cruise did on Oblivion. They went to the top of a mountain in Hawaii and shot with these, 70 millimeter cameras, and just really, really got, what they needed. So for us, I knew that we needed plates too. So we had drones and shooting our background. So when we got it up there in the screen, the light that's bouncing off the sun, off that mountain peak, is hitting hitting the silver parts of the cable car, and that light that's coming, the sun that's coming off of that screen is going into your actor's eyes. Right. And so you're pretty much capturing all of that. So you have to light it a little bit. We had glow sticks and stuff like that. Just for stuff. It was almost what we lit was coming off of the screen behind us, off of the stuff like that. Yeah. So wow. I was hit the ground running. It was, and I gotta hand it to our brain bar, the guys who were sitting at, making it all work. And there was stuff that we were doing. They're like, we have to build some new software. Wow. Because I'd be shooting in a cable car with two handheld cameras. And they're like, well, it's like the cable car's got all this metal. It's got metal, so the signal has to. So they're like, we have to figure that out, to have two cameras going at the same time, wireless, and just bouncing back off of these antennas back into the brain bar. So they were building stuff as we went along. They were just amazing.
And how was this for the actors? Were they able to kind of adapt to this type of shoot, or was it challenging for them?
I mean, they're kids.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get them up there into the snow in the dead of winter and like that. So there's no way we could have done that, at least not places that have child labor laws. And then then you have to bring the cable car down, let them go to the bathroom. And then all through shooting, the kids had to take an hour, 90 minutes a day to do to school. So we had them for a very limited time, and they can only work so many hours a day. But they loved it, They were great. They liked it because we did long takes. Right. They were so professional.
How did you go about the casting process? Did you know who you wanted? Did you have a big open audition? How did that work?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there were some American actors. I thought I was going to shoot in America. I was like, oh, it's going to be a SAG thing, low budget SAG thing. This is during COVID too. Then once we were shooting we knew we were shooting in Finland, in Helsinki, we kind of knew that our budget wouldn't be able to let us fly over Americans in SAG. We couldn't afford it, so we cast the film out of the UK. And there were I knew that might happen, so there were some kids. We did an audition.
You did an open call.
We had a casting agent. I can't remember her name right now. She was
Based
amazing.
in the UK.
Oh yeah, out of London.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's some people of course I'd seen Jojo Rabbit. I was like, okay, we got to get him in here. And Felix also from what's that science fiction show? Can't remember. And some other kids. Yeah, we saw some cool kids. We saw, there was a black kid I wanted, but he'd grown up too much. There's another black kid who didn't want to do it. And there was another kid. It's tricky though, because the film I wrote the first 55 pages, didn't have any bookends. It's a flashback. And I was like, okay, if I have like a black kid and a white kid and an Asian kid as a flashback, we might know who's who. we might know who's telling a story if you start the film off and there's somebody like that. So I whittled it down to it. We were left to our own devices of casting it, but Sam Small, who plays the son of the father telling the story, he's awesome. He is. I'm writing something for him too. He's friggin' awesome. So yeah, it was. I mean, if in England, man, they're so friggin' awesome. They're kid actors, they're just dedicated and blow me away.
Now, is this a union project? Like, are these union actors in the UK as well?
They're not. Well, let's see. I'm wondering if any of them ever worked in America, but yeah, there's a union over there in the UK that they're in, but it's not as beneficial to them as it would be if they were a SAG actor,
Right.
But they have more wiggle room to work in other films that aren't SAG signatory. They can do more independent stuff.
Right.
Yeah. But I don't think I answered your question, though.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it's not. Yeah, I guess it's. So they have a union there.
They absolutely have a union.
Yeah, because I know for myself, and I'm sure a lot of other filmmakers here in the United States may not be familiar in case they do want to shoot something overseas, how that all works, if it's a similar process as it is here with the Screen Actors Guild.
There's actors in the UK who have SAG, who are in SAG and the British Actors Union too.
Oh, okay. I see.
These kids weren't in SAG, but that's the way we had to go because we didn't have the budget.
Right. Now, I like the idea, this concept of shooting in one location.
Yeah.
And that's a challenging thing, because a film shot in one location can be absolutely amazing and so incredibly engaging, or not. And in your case, it worked. It worked perfectly. And how do you go about making sure to keep an audience engaged when you're working with one location? What's the process there? Do you think about that when you're writing the script?
Yeah.
More so on set?
No, I mean, for me writing it, I knew that it has to be interesting. And luckily, there's different characters and they're different, but you got to hear the voice that they're telling, and that's keeping it fresh, I guess. And I don't know. I don't want to say you want to overwrite it, but you got to whittle it down. You have to make it. you got to think of it being a play, basically. Like, would you sit in a play and watch this if there were 3 people sitting on stage?
Yeah, that's how I always view these films in one location where, you feel like it's a play.
Yeah.
But, but if done well on film, I think it comes across, so great. And I think you did such a great job.
Yeah, I think I did it that way.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it could be a play.
Easily.
You could hang a cable car in a theater, and open it up and have it as a 2-act play or something.
Have you ever thought about that, perhaps as a concept, either with this particular story or another story?
Totally with this one
in theater.
Totally this one theater.
Yeah.
Even a musical.
That would be interesting. Interesting interpretation of this story.
I like so many different genres. I have a musical that I wrote. It hasn't been made yet.
Oh wow! Are you a musician as well?
I am not a musician. Okay. We were taught instruments growing up. Our dad was a composer and a musician and performer. But we grew up with musicals.
Yeah.
My mom loved Fred Astaire and go see On the Town and West Side Story and all these films. Yeah. All of us, from Spike, my sister Joie, David. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And growing up here in New York, you had the opportunity to be exposed to all of this, with the Broadway shows, off Broadway. And,
oh my God, I saw Grease when I was like 9 years old. And I was like, what? There was some guy grabbing some woman's breast on, his hand like this. And I'm just like, ah!
Yeah. So is theater something perhaps you may want to pursue more of in the future?
Absolutely. Not pursue more of. I love theater. I love dance too. I saw Twyla Tharp. I saw Moving Out, speaking of, and that was amazing. I just love dance and stuff like that.
I saw that as well. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm into all genres and stuff like that. I have a war movie I want to do, so
yeah.
I like it. So as a writer, you got to have, I think you need to have stuff that's in different genres. I have a raunchy comedy, and this one is the one I thought would be the cheapest to make that I was pushing to make first. I'm like, okay, it's one location. I can hang in front of that, and then it's not as cheap as I thought it was going to be, with having a brain bar with all these amazing Finnish tech guys.
Yeah, nothing's ever as cheap as you think it's going to be. Things are always more. It's very rarely less.
Yeah.
That always seems to be the case. I'm curious, as a writer, you've also written episodic, because I know you were a writer for a period of time on She's Gotta Have It, the series on Netflix.
Yeah, there was 2 seasons. Yeah.
Right. So how does that process, writing for an episodic series, differ from writing a feature? And do you have a preference? Do you prefer one style over another?
That was different, because that was writing in a room with a bunch of other amazing writers. I was so blown away with just the women writers we had in the room. That was just crazy. And just sitting there and hashing out the episodes with them, it was like a dream come true. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're an amazing writer. You're an effing amazing writer. I'm just like, I'm having fun. Yeah. Then it's like, all right, go home and write your script. And it's just like, all right, I'll see you later. It's like sometimes, you'd be like, hash out what's going to happen in your episode. I thought it was very, very friggin' very easy. Just for me. I know it was a friggin' pain in the ass to other people who worked on it. But, there'd be sometimes, you hash out someone's episode and you'd be like, all right, when are you going to have it done? It's like you get to leave. All right, go home. We're going to finish out some other stuff. It's like you get to leave school early sometimes, Everyone else has to stay there.
Yeah.
And that happens. Like, yeah, I'll see you in a couple of days. And so that was, what's the word? I'm a lost word. The word I'm looking for. It's collaborative. Even though you wrote your own episode. But it was great, because it's like, hey, this is going to fit my episode. Can I throw this couple of lines that we need to put in that episode. So it was. I've only done that once. It was only 2 episodes. That was freaking awesome.
Very cool. Yeah.
Very lucky to have been on that.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity. Yeah.
Now writing on my own, it's like pulling teeth. Yeah.
Now, in terms of the process of getting a feature film made, you had mentioned that this film, A Rare Grand Alignment, you'd written it, at least started to write it in 2017, right?
Yeah.
And now here we are in 2025.
Yep.
Now the film's just being shopped around for distribution and all that. So this is a process of nearly a decade already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was this process like? Like how could it, what I guess you could say what.
I didn't want it to happen this way, by the way.
Right? No, of course, no doubt about it. But yeah,
I did it, and it worked out pretty good so far.
So yeah, you began this you began this script in 2017. Here we are in 2025. You know what caused it to take the time that it did? Was it a financing, a production? You know, just kind of bringing it all together. What was the what do you think kind of caused the
well, we finished the film we wrapped in 2023, you know.
Well, I should say 6 years in. You actually wrapped in 2023. So it was a 6-year process from the time you sat down.
And I'm saying, and then that was the tail end of COVID, and then the friggin' strikes put a dent in a lot of stuff. Writer strike, and then people getting all kind of scared about buying stuff, and everyone were holding the cards. At least that's what our sales agent told me and some of the other people working on my film. Well, it's kind of slow right now. I'm gonna bitch a little bit. It's kind of slow right now. I have films with superstars in my thing, and I can't get anybody looking at it now. So just hold on like that. Don't send it out to festivals. Everyone's holding their cards, you know, and it's just like, all right, dude, whatever. So going back to 2017, right? So I wrote this script, and and then I put the bookends onto it. That's like 2018, maybe 2017, and then you think you're going to do it cheap, and I start looking for places to make it, and sometimes you got to put something down and start, and then you start writing something else, and then you move along. You see, maybe something will pop off when it happens. So I started writing some other scripts. So between that time, I wrote a couple of more scripts. I was like, okay, I got that one. I got that out of my system about my nostalgic growing up with some friends I never saw again. I moved on to something else. I moved on to a horror script, a Civil War horror script. So I did that. Then I moved on to writing a couple of episodes for a TV series I wanted to make out of a comic book I had published in the 90s. So I put that away, and then boom, something else came back, and then Mikko from Finland with his Fireframe Studio, that guy who sold his Clash of Clans company, boom, that just, kismet. He was looking for a film to do for his first movie, and I happened to be at the right people at the right time, and it was perfect for his thing, because at that time I was shopping around from mom and pop shops who popped up their own LED volume studios, like literally like a guy and his wife and his kids, and an actual company that makes the LED screens. We went straight to the top, to those guys. And then, boom. And then we were in Finland all of a sudden.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how long was the production? What was the total time to actually get it in the can, so to speak?
Geez. Well, let's see. We went over there at the tail end of COVID. We were there a year.
A year, really?
A year. I was there a year, not because the filming was so long, just because I didn't think I'd be there that long. I mean, I went back and forth. I'd have a break and I go back and forth. But at the end of the shooting, I was like, oh my God, we don't have a post-production supervisor. someone's going to take care of the film so I can go move on to other big giant things and not have time to hang out here, whatever. Yeah, right. But it turns out that they're like, well, that's you. The director's the post-production supervisor. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to be here for another 4 months. You know?
This is a fairly small crew overall?
I mean, yeah. It was fair. I mean, we had maybe, on the days that we were shooting studio, we probably had about, I don't know, maybe 10 guys at the brain bar, maybe 8. And then we had another maybe 35 people. So it was not a big studio, but yeah, it was cozy.
Nice.
Yeah. So, so I had to stay in Finland to, which is great because I work with our amazing editor, Ika. And he was just fantastic. So I would go see him every other day, me and my partner, and we stayed there. And then there were effects too. That's because we shot a lot of stuff on camera. And in camera, there were some stuff that I wanted to shoot that was. Remember all the stuff he's explaining, like all the radiation coming from the solar storms. We shot that. That wasn't stuff that someone shot. We just bought it. There's a Finnish guy named it's a Turkish artist.
Oh, that wasn't stock. That was something that you produced on your own.
We flew a guy in from Turkey. I can't remember his name. Sorry, and he made this artwork. It's basically paint on water and oil and water, and depending on what temperature the water is, it's going to spread apart from each other or break up. So we shot that, and when I had him come over from Turkey, he usually works on something that's, I don't know, maybe 4 feet by 3 feet, something like that. And I was like, nope, I got the money. I'm going to build you a big ass fucking tank, 4 feet by 10 feet, which he's never done before. And he came in and he's just like, what? And so that didn't work because it was way more out of his, we had to do it at a different studio, only had it for a certain amount of time. And so he's like, don't worry about it. I'm going to shoot it all in Turkey. He's like, why don't you come over to Turkey? So we flew to Turkey, and the guy stayed up. We shot for like 8 hours straight, and he's like, I'm going to be up for another 10 hours. He shot it all alone with his assistant. So yeah, the reason I wanted to do it like that, because I didn't want it to... How many times in a movie do you see, like, okay, the planets are moving, and then, and this happens, and that happens? That shit does not hold up years later.
Yeah.
So that's why I went for something more... I think my producer thinks it's too arty, but something more arty and just more... What's the word I'm looking for? Just something that's you hadn't seen before, sort of like the tripping scene in 2001.
Oh yeah,
so
classic.
That was done with a lot of oil paint too, and stuff reacting that way. So I did it that way, and that stuff that'll never get old. It won't be the effects on that are just digital, and won't do crap. So I did it that way. I wanted stuff to live.
Right. Understood. Yeah, very cool. Now, looking just at your career in general. I want to just go back to how you started, going back to the 80s. How did it all start for you? Your career in film.
Wow, I didn't think of it as a career. My interest in telling stories. Let's see. Well, my dad is I don't want to say he's vaudeville, but he would do one-man shows, and he grew up in a family of, I don't know, maybe 8 siblings, and they played instruments. He did, and he was the head of the descendants of Mike and Phoebe, with his siblings who were, pianist and opera singer and trumpet and stuff like that. But my dad would do one-man shows. My dad was a hoot. He would tell ghost stories, and he's from the backwoods of Alabama. I'm from Brooklyn, but he would scare the living stuff out of me. And then he had stories about when he was a kid, he would hang out with older people. He was kind of weird because he would be like this kid, but he would hang out and listen to all these older people from down south their stories, and that's sort of he sort of took to him. So he is very, like I said, vaudeville. So at that storytelling thing, I think I got from my dad, because he was very entertaining in the way he told it. And sometimes you think, it's crap. I remember he told me one time he caught Batman and Robin in the basement. He would go out in the basement. He had this vault, this walk-in vault that he would go into and write. 5 kids. He's trying to compose music for, 10-piece stuff like that. But I went to school and I told my friends, hey, my dad caught Batman and Robin, but they got away. And they're just like, they're good guys. Why would your dad do that? And I was like, oh, man, I don't know. So I'm like, yeah, that was kind of cool, But then he's telling other stories, like how would see like these ghost dogs on the road coming from, a fishing hole in the backwoods in the 30s, and seeing like a Bigfoot and stuff like that. And that's I'm writing stuff. I've written stuff about the stories he's had, growing up in the South. So there's that, and then some of it, believe it, some you do, because I saw a UFO with my dad and my mom when I was 10.
Really?
Yeah.
How did that go?
It was right by Manhattan, Staten Island, right down Liberty, right where the Staten Island ferry takes off from Lower Manhattan.
Downtown, like Battery Park area.
Yeah, exactly. Right out of a Spielberg movie. I'm 10 years old. I'm learning how to ride my bike at nighttime. I kind of 8 o'clock like that. My mom's in the car station. My dad's out there on the trees teaching me how to ride a bike. And he's like, what is that? And right above us, above the trees, is a light spinning around. It's a friggin' something out of a 50s movie, Saucer, right? And my dad, there's people going onto the Staten Island ferry. My dad's running across the street, grabbing him, shaking their hands, going, look at that, look at that. And they're just like, get away from me, get away from me. There's, the black guy's running across the street at them. And my mother's freaking out. She's just like, get in the car, get in the car. And everyone else is just like, thinks we're crazy. And we just watch it go across the water towards New Jersey, just like a saucer. And we're like, holy moly.
Wow.
Yeah, so I believe some of the stuff. That's a long way around the story. I think my dad had seen stuff when he was a kid. Because I had seen stuff with him and my mom when I was a kid.
Wow.
So anyway, so I'm like a normal kid. I like drawing, and my Spike had a Super 8 camera. He was making Super 8 films like in 1977 during the blackout. My dad would drive him around during the 1997 blackout, and he would, have my brother Chris interview my brother Chris in front of stores getting, plumaged and looted and whatnot. And I was like, wow, this is cool.
He portrays that blackout in Summer Sam.
He does.
Right.
He does. So that's 1977. So I would borrow his camera in the early 80s. When I was in art and design, and I went to art and design. It was an awesome school that had illustrators, they had animators. If you want to do that, and I wanted to make film because I was Spike was going to NYU at some point, and I was doing storyboards for him for that, and I was acting in some of his short films over there too. And so I was like, yeah, I was shooting some stuff on his Super 8 camera. So I went to art and design, which was amazing at the time. This is like 1980 or something like that. Yeah, 1980. So I got to hang out with kids from all over, rich kids, poor kids, kids coming from Westchester, from Long Island, just like Ecuadorians and like Chinese kids, and Russian kids, and we were all mixed up in there. And it reminds me, one of my friends who I hadn't seen in like 45 years. I saw him recently, and he was like, I almost went to that school, but when I went to the school, to take the test, everybody in the school who was my wife from the Queens, he's like, they're all black. He's like, I'm not going to a school that's all black like that. Dude, you would have been probably the only guy, not all those guys got into art design. You had to be a really good illustrator. And my friend is an amazing illustrator. I'm going all over the place. Just real quick. When we were in school, we had a Spanish class, the worst Spanish class the school has ever had. I went to a reunion. I was like, hey, it's Sankey. She's like, you can't be him. He's the worst student I ever had. But at our Spanish class, it was me. I won't say my friends' names, but it was like the 3 worst kids ever. This isn't a private school before I went art and design, right? And they had a Spanish book, and for some reason, you could erase the ink, and you could if you get the same color ink, you could do stuff. So basically, my friend, who I name or I would say, he was a really good illustrator. He should have gone to the school because he would erase stuff out of the Spanish book. 2 people talking on the street. It basically, by the time he'd pass it to me, he'd have the same ink. It would be in the same illustration style of what he erased. But of course, the person's pants would be open with the dick hanging out. And he passed it. It made you be in class and you would just lose it. To do like that all year long. Sorry, I don't know how PG this is.
Oh, it's okay.
Sorry, I went off on a tangent.
No, it's all right.
Anyway, with the art and design, making films, so that was great. I mean, I had friends. My friend Sean Fagan, he's the guy who eventually made that graphic, the comic book for Dark Horse Comics. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, so there were kids. He made features on Super 8 film. And sort of these other friends of mine. I was making sort of like, black and white, arty black and white surreal films. I'm actually showing this film called Spectacle. It's in Brooklyn. It's actually showing tonight, actually. But I'll be doing a Q&A on May 10th. Shot on a 16 millimeter black and white and some color.
Where's the screening happening? Where are you screening the film?
Yeah, the place is called, I'll tell you right now, I got a little note here. It's called Spectacle Theater.
Spectacle Theater. Okay.
And on Saturday, May 10th, I'll be doing a Q&A with my cinematographer and my sound design. But not my dad because he died, but he did the music for it.
And when was this film produced originally?
I shot it from 1985 to 1988. Yeah. Staten Island. Huh?
Did you have to restore the film at all, or this is the original print?
Oh, you know what? By the time these guys asked me to do this a week ago, I was like, oh boy, let me find out what I have it on. The only thing I have it on was a Blu-ray or something like that. So it's going to be screwed. But in looking for what kind of masters I had, I did find my master 16 millimeter and all these other old dead stock 4-inch tapes and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to have it released in 4K.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. I mean, that'll be amazing because it's amazing black and white Super 8 footage.
Yeah, you don't see that much anymore.
16 millimeter footage.
16 mil. Yeah, you don't see it so much anymore. 16 millimeter, film. It still has that great look that unfortunately you just don't see.
It really does, and everything is so glossy when you see it on television right now. I'm like, why? And why is everything on the side of it? And the lenses too. I don't like everything's all blurry on the side. And I mean, you get like Spielberg. You got a shot like that, you can see people from 50 yards away that are in focus, but they're doing something, They're digging a pit or something like that. Now everything's out of focus.
That actually brings me to the last, part of this interview that I wanted to address is how you've seen the industry as a whole change since you started back in the 80s till now. Do you have a preference? Do you think the industry was in a better place in the 80s, 90s, or now?
Well, I think it's easier to make a film now. Low budget, no budget. But it might be so saturated that it's very hard to see it or get recognition or get eyes on it, though you could probably have a TikTok channel and just blow it up there, I imagine, if you're an influencer or something like that, and then you made a movie and then something like that. But yeah, I think it's absolutely easier to make a film as far as low budget goes. I mean, on independent, like on your friggin' own.
Right. You
know.
can make a no budget movie now. You can make it on your phone.
Exactly. No budget, even better. You
Yeah.
know? I mean, absolutely. So I think there's that. I mean, Steven Soderbergh shoots on friggin' iPhone.
Right.
You know?
It's incredible.
He went on a boat with Meryl Streep for a little while and just shot the whole thing in a
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like using old media. You know?
Right. Like traditional film or just...
Traditional film, or I'm doing something now. I'm shooting on hopefully shooting at a 1979 VHS camera.
Oh, wow. That's so.
It takes place in 1979. So.
Did you have trouble finding a VHS camera from 1979, or do you own one?
I don't own one, but I'm having trouble getting one that works that I can rely on. You can't shoot and not have a backup one. Yeah. So I'm having stuff like that. But you know,
yeah, that's really cool. No, I appreciate the nostalgia. I like that. That's
yeah.
You know,
I mean, even when they go and clean up stuff now, I mean, you go like, oh, I got to get this 4K. It's coming out and blah blah blah. And it's like, what did they do to it? They changed. They gave it a whole new color, and it's too sharp. You know, sometimes you remember it being you see some of the grain. It's funny. Jim Jarmusch did I think he did was it 4K or something like that? You know, they did it. He went back to the original negative, and they were like, well, let's clean up. There's some scratches on the film right there. He's like, nope, that's what it is. The master has a scratch on it. Leave it there. Leave that dust there.
No,
he doesn't want it clean.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I like
Yeah.
that. You know, keeping it authentic, keeping it real.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And so I know you had mentioned The Thing is one of your favorite films. Are there any other films that have inspired you or have helped guide your career as a filmmaker?
Oh, yeah. Tarkovsky. Because, I mean, when I was in art design, I was making some very surreal black and white, you know, they were narrative, but they didn't have too much dialogue. So yeah, he's a Russian filmmaker who is just, he made Stalker. It's a science fiction film, and there'll be shots like tracking shot that'll go on for like, I don't know, 10 minutes, but it'll be really, really amazingly framed and slow paced, you know. So he's really, really he's the one that I influenced for when I made When You're Your Present. I didn't probably tell you the name of the film that's showing at the Spectacle Theater. I like him. Of course, Jarmusch. I've been very lucky.
Yeah.
There's some. I mean, there's some. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. You put me on spot. Hold on a second.
Mm-hmm.
I can name you a few right here.
Sure.
I can tell you I'll tell you why. I'll say this. I'll tell you why I like 1982.
Okay.
My favorite year, because The Thing did come out.
The Thing came out in 82,
The Thing
right?
came out in 1982.
Right.
So did Tron.
Oh, Tron came out in 82 also. Okay.
So did The Wrath of Khan.
Oh, that's a great movie. Wrath of Khan.
Right?
I think that's my favorite Star Trek film.
There you
Definitely.
go.
Yeah, classic. Love that one.
Cat People.
Cat People. Came out
Diner.
Oh, Diner. That was Barry Levinson.
Yep. Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
King of Comedy.
King of Comedy, Robert De Niro.
Yep.
Scorsese.
Yep. The Year of Living Dangerously with Mel Gibson. Fucking awesome movie. Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh, Sean Penn.
Yep.
That's a classic for you.
Class in 1984. First Blood.
Oh, the original
Yep.
First one. Still the best one of all of them.
Yeah.
By far.
Chariots of Fire.
Chariots of Fire. That was a great film. I love
You know?
the soundtrack.
Right?
The song.
Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. That's, Steve Martin's black and white movie. There's also Atomic Cafe, great documentary. Creep Show, 48 Hours.
Oh, with the original Creep Show.
Yeah.
The first Creepshow film.
Yeah.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
great. The second one I didn't love. The first one, amazing. That's the one I think Ted Danson's in one of the segments.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen. That was a great film. And 48 Hours came out in '82. You mentioned.
Yeah. Poltergeist. Come on.
Oh, Poltergeist. Yeah.
Poltergeist.
One of the best horror films of all time.
Sophie's Choice.
Oh, one of the greatest movies ever.
I'll wrap this up real quick.
Yeah.
Shoot the Moon. I love that movie. All right. Eating Raoul.
Let me just go back and say 48 Hours. Was that Eddie Murphy's first
Eddie
feature coming off
Murphy's.
Saturday Night Live? Or was he in something before that? It may have been his first feature.
I think it
right?
was. It was before the Beverly Hills Cop. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely before that. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Conan the Barbarian.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's first, or one of his first films.
Francis. But anyway, I just mentioned Shoot the Moon. Okay, who did that movie? That guy's really did he do Fame in the Wall too? Also, but yeah, I can't remember his name. But the guy who did Fame and Shoot the Moon and the Wall. I mean, he does like different genres.
Right.
The musical. Then he did a movie called about growing up in London during World War II, during the Blitz when you're being bombed.
Oh yeah, they call it, yeah. There's a
What's it called?
term
The
they use.
Blitzkrieg? Is that what that called? No, I can't remember the term.
The Blitzkrieg. You know.
I'm failing all the people I love, all the filmmaking people I'm inspired by. Yeah, I mean, sorry, I'm at a loss for words. But yeah, so I mean, as far as writing goes, writing's amazing. You could do it on a subway. If you have I have my pad with me and my pen. It's always a good place like that.
I like that. You got the old school way of going about it. Pad and pen, just like we used to back in the day. You know?
I tell you, up until 2003, I had a flip phone.
Really?
Yeah. And that really, and now I know how much it really separated me from being on the phone or having a lot of stuff going on. Now, when I went to Finland, when I showed up to Finland to shoot this movie with the flip phone, home of Nokia, they were just like, nope, that's not going to work over here. I'm like, why, 2G? They're like, no. So ever since then, I've had this phone over here for a couple of years. But yeah, so now it's kind of hard to go back to.
Yeah.
Once you have the
smartphone, it's hard to go back to the flip phone.
But writing's easy. You can do it on a train. I wear earplugs for the train because it's too noisy. I wear them when I walk down the street to get here in Times Square. You can't even hear yourself hum. What if you have a song you wanna hum in your head, or something like that? It's something you're just thinking of. I can do it now. See, I can hear myself. I usually have earplugs. I can do that, but. Yeah. So I'm not saying just be a hermit or something like that, but I'm so easily distracted by stuff, especially since I gotta go back to a flip phone maybe.
Right.
But writing is amazing. No one you can sort of see your progress. You can jot down a note. I mean, I have stuff in here that I put here maybe three or 4 years ago. I'm like, wow, that was the beginning of something else that I had. Because sometimes it's just scraps that you throw on the paper. Yeah. Sometimes you're like, this scrap is kind of nice, and that would go great over here on this thing, and this thing will be great over here. So
it's wonderful because writing is so personal. It's yours.
Yeah.
It's not something you necessarily share all the time. It's your own. It's your thing. You own it, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
When it's your,
And that's funny you said, because a rare grain alignment is the most personal thing I've written. I was like, it was so heartbreaking and sad to just think about these people I hadn't seen in so long, and just stuff I wanted to tell them.
Yeah.
I had my characters say to them, not the characters in my script, and I said it to them too, through me to them and stuff like that. So it was, I got a lot out.
Yeah, that's great. No, it's great you got to tell this personal story. And we're really looking forward to screening it. So thank you so much for being here. Again, this is Cinqué Lee. Cinqué's film, A Rare Grand Alignment, will be screening at the Big Apple Film Festival. Our festival takes place May 12th through the 15th at Look Dine and Cinemas. please go to BigAppleFilmFestival.com for information on A Rare Grand Alignment, as well as all of our other films. Program tickets available at BigAppleFilmFestival.com. Thank you. Thank you, Cinqué, for being here, and we'll see you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.